All right, everybody. Welcome to Frightmare HQ. My name is Lloyd Cryer, and I am here with Charles Doze right next to me.
Hi.
And over to my right on the screen, wherever that is filmmaker, writer, director, producer, actor, Jeremy Sumrall. Welcome to the show,
Yes.
Jeremy.
What's up, Jeremy?
How's it going, guys? Thank you for having me, man. This is
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely our pleasure, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, so I think we should start by letting the uninitiated know what or who
Tisk,
Jeremy
tisk.
Sumrall is. So Jeremy, I've known you for years. Literally years.
We met while you were promoting the very first Texas Frightmare at one of Ben Stevens' shows. God, was it Dallas Comic Con at that point? Or
It was either
still-
that or Fan Days. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was so long ago. Yeah, so like Lloyd said, I'm a filmmaker. I like to refer to myself as a texploitation flick maker at this point in my career.
Yes.
I've worked in indie horror since 2007, actually around the time of the second Frightmare. I've been in Sweatshop. I played the Beast, which of course played at Frightmare to a ridiculously raucous crowd.
The beast.
Yeah. And there he
standing
is.
remotely. Yes,
There
that
you
is
are as the
me,
Beast.
in all my stinky, musty glory.
You're so saucy in this picture, though. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's a sexy photo right there.
It
really
I-
is.
I've never looked better than I look right there. That's for sure.
That photo's giving me the tingles. I'm getting the tingles.
It still makes my nipples rock hard when I look at it.
I was
I'll tell ya.
noticing your nipples were hard, so
Oh yeah, like I've got the pokies.
those are nice, actually. Those are good nipples you got
Yeah.
there.
Well, I figured I better come on this show to give you all some sex appeal, right? So,
Man, that's good. I'm happy for that.
but also writer director. God, I'm losing my train of thought now. Like I said, I've been doing it since 2007, and I'm not getting any younger, and I'm just getting crazier and more ornery. So,
Yeah.
I wrote and directed the slasher film PICKAXE, which we screened again.
Heck yeah.
Frightmare. We screened it at Frightmare again, a raucous crowd, standing room only crowd, a few years ago now, and it's out on DVD and streaming services. And
That's from who put that out? That's Wild Eye, right?
that's Wild Eye releasing. Yes,
Wild
So,
Eye.
Frightmare vendor as well.
yeah, and actually, it's funny. I guess when it was about to come out, I had actually never met any of the guys at Wild Eye, and John Tarani, who is one of the producers on Sweatshop, he and I ran into one another at Frightmare because he's always at Frightmare and so am I. And he told me like, hey, and I forget the owner of Wild Eye's name. He's gonna kill me for it. He said, hey, John told me that he was over at the booth, and he said you should go introduce yourself because they're excited about PICKAXE. So I was like, cool. Every time I went by the booth, he was gone. So, but they had a stack of Sweatshop DVDs, which I thought was pretty cool. They bought John's last inventory for it. So I still never met the guys at Wild Eye. I've had a lot of great interactions with them and stuff, but I've never gotten to meet them. And we are always at Frightmare together.
Isn't
That's
that
crazy.
crazy?
Never. Yeah. I mean, because Lloyd, come on, Frightmare is so damn huge. Like you can't meet everybody there.
No.
And I try. I desperately try, but just not always in the cards.
Yeah, but the thing is you're able to make that connection at the show.
Yeah.
Whether people say, "Hey, I'm at Frightmare," oh, I'm going to be there too, and whether
Yeah.
you end up meeting one another is
You guys
is
have
one
the
thing.
connection, though.
Well, one thing that I always say about Frightmare is that it's our fucked up family reunion.
Mhm.
you know? And literally every year that's one thing that I look forward to the most. It's to a point now where even if I have something to promote at Frightmare, I almost don't want to be a guest or don't want to be a vendor there so that I can kind of mingle and do my thing because it is my home convention, right? And so I just kind of want to mingle and meet everybody, and I don't want to be chained to a table. But I mean, Frightmare is my heart and soul. I mean, I owe my film career to Frightmare. If it wasn't for Frightmare, I would never have met Stacey Davidson, the director of Sweatshop. Well, I say never, but I mean, if it wasn't for me, creating my horror memorabilia company and being a vendor at that second Frightmare, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have networked with a lot of the Texas filmmakers because I didn't know that anybody in Texas made films, not on that kind of level.
They're hidden.
So yeah, exactly. I mean, even, I tell everybody I'm a Houston-based filmmaker, but the truth is I live in a very tiny town about an hour north. So even just getting to Houston can be kind of a process. So back then, especially, I did not know if there was any kind of horror cliques or groups or anything anywhere. So, when Frightmare came along, of course, and Lloyd, I told you this back then, like I was so grateful that somebody finally had the balls to put together a horror convention and within a few hours drive for me so that I could go and meet other horror fans. And so at the very first Frightmare, I met Stacy and Mel House and Josh Vargas and a few other guys, and that's when I realized, oh shit, there are people that are actually making films in Houston.
Yeah.
So I could maybe, hang around them and kind of, glom onto them and learn from them. And here we are, oh God, 14 years later now. And
Yep.
I'm still at it. Been knocked down in the dirt a few times, but I'm still stubborn. I definitely got that from my folks. Uh, but yeah, man.
Well,
if it
Hey,
hadn't been
Lloyd
for
is the
Frightmare,
Lloyd is the mystical dream weaver. That's what he is.
I was just going to say it's it's reciprocal because a lot of people say, "Oh, if it wasn't for Frightmare," but the way I look at it is that if it wasn't for people like you, then Frightmare wouldn't exist either. So
yeah, man. And
it's
we got nothing but love, So
yeah, it's the circle of life.
and it's interesting because going around the country,
I don't like Frightmare. I'm gonna say it. I don't like it. I'm gonna put it out there.
Bad Charles.
but going around the country to other conventions, I realize how special Frightmare really is.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
And there are some great conventions out there, and there's some really, really bad ones. And even the good ones, when I go to them and I have a blast and I hang out with people that are like-minded, it's still nothing like coming to Frightmare. It really isn't.
It's crazy, but I hear that a lot, and I think that it just comes down to, like I said, there's so many great attendees and people like you and filmmakers and people that just love this genre so much, and there's kind of a synergy that I hate to use a word like that, like a buzzword like synergy, but it is kind of there's some kind of synergy that happens at Frightmare, and you can feel it. It's in the air.
I don't know what you've done, but I mean, you've definitely I feel like you've leveled the playing field because I can go to Frightmare, I can go to any other convention, and there will feel like there's a separation between the, I don't want to say A-list because, we're not Christopher Nolan and that sort of filmmaker, but there seems to be a kind of a separation between filmmakers who have, had movies that are in cinemas all over the country or the world or whatever, and then the indie guys. Whereas Frightmare, we all share the same green room. We all kind of have that same mentality. I mean, you can go down to the bar and hang out with, you can hang out with me, you can hang out with Stacey Davidson, or you can hang out with Dario Argento and John Carpenter.
Yeah.
And like that doesn't really happen at, too many other conventions. I mean, maybe a little bit, but not like it is at Frightmare, for sure.
Well, something you might find interesting is it's not only indie filmmakers that make deals at Frightmare, but one year Robert Englund made a film deal at our show.
Really?
Yeah, and he locked in a deal, went to lunch with somebody at the show, and, next thing you know, he was booked. And, I'm not saying that's because it's because of Frightmare or because of the convention, but I'm just saying that it's like you said, it's leveled the playing field, and Robert Englund's making deals, and you guys are making deals. So
look, the key to this is Frightmare is magical, and it's not Lloyd's fault. He's just
magic.
He's just a magic dreamweaver, special man, and
Well, let's talk about Jeremy for a little bit.
Jeremy is a pimp, guys. All right.
What was your first foray into filmmaking? The very first thing you really did. I mean, even if it was small.
Not dirty movies, whatever you did.
Well, I was appearing on Josh Stifter's Low Budget Rebels podcast yesterday, and we were talking about how we got our starts. And for me, you know, when I was growing up, I wanted to concentrate more on music. And and as such, like when my father bought a video camera for the family, I probably, 8, 9, 10 years old, somewhere around there. But I was still very focused on wanting to be a musician and creating a band. So my sister and I uh, put together this little band. But it always looped back to cinema because we actually named the band Red Dawn after the Patrick Swayze movie,
Right.
because I was obsessed with that movie when I was younger.
A great movie.
And yeah, and through that, I kind of fell in love with music documentaries. Because actually, like the first time I saw This Is Spinal Tap, I didn't realize it was fake. I thought that was an actual band that just all this crazy stuff had happened to. But I got really obsessed with music documentaries, and so my sister and I would start doing documentaries based on our band. And so I would take the video camera and we'd go and film, skits and stuff and like interview segments and us playing our instruments, and then I would kind of crudely kind of edit them into this, documentary form. But again, I was so focused on music. It wasn't until I was 25 and had a quarter to life crisis of sorts, and nothing was really going on with any of the bands that I'd been in, and I kind of pivoted and started taking screenwriting classes at Rice University. And but all I wanted to really do at the time was just write. I didn't think that I could, direct, because I didn't know of any filmmakers in this area. I mean, I knew of Texas filmmakers like Robert Rodriguez, Richard Linklater, and the sort. But it wasn't until, a few years later that I met Stacy, and realized that there were people that were like serious about filmmaking. But even though their movies weren't necessarily serious, they
Mhm.
took the work seriously. And he cast me as the Beast in Sweatshop. He messaged me on MySpace. This was how long ago it was, and asked me, have you ever considered playing the masked killer in a slasher film? Which I said, of course, every day since I was 6. And so within, a couple of weeks, we were on set, and I was splattering a bunch of raver kids, and I fell in love with the process of filmmaking. I mean, I still thought that I would be a writer more than anything. But one day on set, this was a particularly long day. Stacy was just kind of defeated. He was, 18 hours on set and nothing had gone right. And so he and I are just kind of shooting the shit. And he asked me, like, when are you going to make a movie? Like, when are you going to direct? And at the time, I seriously didn't think I would be able to. And I told him that, I'm like, look, I'm a writer, like I can come up with the ideas, but I don't know that I could pull off what it is that you do. And he was like, look, man, if you can sit at a monitor and you can call action and cut, you can be a director. So that kind of inspired me to go and make my first feature. And that was kind of my film school, and after that, like I was obsessed with it. I was in love, but I still didn't know anything about like cameras or lighting or anything like that. That's really only been the last few years that I've done a lot of
That
stuff
you really
myself.
learned. And what
Yeah.
your first foray into directing was Possum Walk, is that right?
Yes. Yes. And
Okay.
I actually jumped off into the deep end without even, looking if there was water in the pool, and directed a feature first. Most people, they'll do, local commercials, or they'll do a music video or a short film or whatever. I went right for it. I immediately, like, I blazed through a script and started casting within no time, and then just we were off and running.
Right.
And again, kind of a trial by fire film school type uh feel to the entire process, just kind of learning as we went. And
Do you think that
yeah.
made it more difficult for you? Or did it actually make it better? You know?
It's interesting. I come from two schools of thought on it. In one respect, there's a part of me that wonders if I had done a short film or a music video or something, before jumping into a feature, maybe the process could have been a little smoother. Maybe I would have been more confident, because I really don't feel like I was, at all confident as a filmmaker at the time, and made a lot of decisions that I probably wouldn't have, in hindsight. But then again, um, one of my father's favorite phrases is to reach back and grab a pair. You know, basically, if you don't have the balls to do something, reach back and grab a pair of them and go. So, had I not taken that mentality, I wouldn't have known how things are not supposed to be done.
Yeah.
Or I just would have come at them from a different perspective. So yeah, I mean, I don't have any regrets by doing it the way I did. Because again, I think, in just reaching back and grabbing a pair and doing it, I who knows, I might not still be doing it now.
Yeah.
Because if I had done a short film and it didn't go well, I might have said like, well, that was, a couple of weekends of my life wasted. Never mind, I'm not going to do it again.
Yeah.
Instead, I was stubborn enough to say, I've got this feature, let's do it. So
Yeah.
What was the hardest thing you found about jumping in the deep end and directing? What's the most difficult part of it that you found while doing it?
Well, I mean, you have to be diplomatic, number one. You have to have patience and you have to be able to adapt. And I, even looking back now, I realize, of course, I was nowhere near as you know, adaptable in particular as I am now. So it definitely was a trial by fire, and everything that can go wrong will go wrong, and you have to learn very quickly how to handle it. And I like to think that I handled it well, but in hindsight, I realized that I probably would have handled things differently. I mean, I definitely would now. On anything that I work on now, if the same stuff had gone wrong, I would have just, I probably would have laughed it off a lot easier now. So yeah, being able to kind of take that and remind yourself that, number one, not everything has to be precious. Like, okay, yeah, you may have written it and you're directing it, but at the end of the day, it is a collaborative art. And if someone is doing something differently than what you want, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just you coming at it from two different ways. And try it their way, try it your way, and then find out what works best. But don't take too much time on it. Don't be too precious about it.
Mhm.
But at the same time, if there's something that you absolutely know the right call is yours, you have to stand up and fight for it. And that means that sometimes you're going to ruffle feathers. You just got to be willing to do that, because yeah, you want people that are friendly and then you want to work with, but they've got to recognize that you are the captain of the ship, and you have to be able to have that confidence to lead them and not beat them down or
Right.
anything. So it's definitely it's taught me diplomacy and killing with kindness, so to speak.
Well,
Yeah.
that was something that I was going to ask you about, is because I've always felt like a director, and this is just me from my viewpoint looking out. A director is art counselor. There's you have to be kind to people, but you also have to be
Yes.
stern, and
Yes.
this is the way it's going to be. But at the same time, you have to be willing to bend a little bit.
Yeah.
If somebody has an idea, because like you said, it's a collaborative effort.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the only art forms that, is truly collaborative. I mean, you get let's take Rob Zombie, for example. You cannot say that when he is working on an album that every decision is not his. It is 100% his. It's his vision, it's everything. When you're making a film, you're working with, let's say 30 to 300 people on crew and cast and everything, and every single person has to support your vision, but they're all going to have their own ideas, and you have to be able to listen to them, especially when you're working with actors. Actors are very creative people, and of course you may have created the character, but they're the one that has to be the character. And if you present them with the words, they're going to have to figure out how their character would deliver it. And if it sounds wrong to you, and you tell them that they're wrong, that's going to create a problem. You have to be able to say, okay, well, you explain to me why the character would say it like that, and then you can kind of find a happy medium. And I've had, incidents on set where, being the writer director, I was like, no, it needs to be said this way. And then I got told, like, wait a minute, like this character is coming from this perspective. And I'm like, wow, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
So I had to go with what the actor, was willing to do. And they were right. They absolutely made the right call. And if I had just been that stubborn asshole and told him, that no, like under no uncertain terms, like this is the way it's done, then he would have never trusted me. He never would have, he would never would have put in the work and gotten the kind of performance out of him that I wanted.
Right. So, for anybody that's just now joining us, we're talking to filmmaker Jeremy Sumrall.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a question, feel free to comment, and we'll try to ask Jeremy your question while we're live here. Is that all right, Jeremy? You open for some questions?
Sure. Absolutely.
Awesome. So, before we get to any of that, I want to talk to you about your second feature film,
PICKAXE.
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 And that movie was actually named something else in the beginning.
Yes,
Is that
it
correct?
was.
I liked the
Yes.
original.
I like the
title.
original title too.
Me too. It was originally the PICKAXE Murders Part 3, the final chapter, which is a mouthful. But it was intentionally a mouthful because, back to before we were even working on Sweatshop, Stacy and I were hanging out a lot with this group that he had called the Houston Filmmakers Organization. And we would have these monthly mixers and just all get together and talk about film and projects that we wanted to work on and stuff. And, at one of those mixers, somebody asked me, like, when are you going to make a film? This was prior to Stacy even asking me the same question. And I said, well, I don't have anything right now. I don't even have a script finished or anything. But I got to thinking about it and said, well, if everybody says that your first film is terrible, just because you're starting out or whatever, maybe I ought to make a quote unquote bad movie first. That was the initial idea. And I thought, well, everybody always says that in a slasher franchise, the first one is always the strongest, and then they just get weaker and weaker and weaker. So I thought, okay, well, if my first film is going to be bad, then I'll make the sequel first.
Yeah.
So I decided I would write a script called The PICKAXE Murders 3, which originally it was called The Bleeding 3. And around that time, I found out that there was a movie coming out called The Bleeding. And I said, well, then I can't title my script The Bleeding Part 3. So I pivoted and came up with the PICKAXE Murders. Coincidentally enough, I didn't even think about this at the time. Cannibal Corpse has an album called The Bleeding. On that album, there's a song called The PICKAXE Murders.
Oh, that's great.
So it's completely independent of, even though I was a Cannibal Corpse fan, it didn't register in my brain when I was coming up with the title. So I said, okay, well, if I want to make it very 80s feel, let's call it something like The Final Chapter because of Friday the 13th. So I said, okay, this is the third part in a trilogy that never existed. I'm going to write it as if it is closing out the story. And I wrote on it for a couple of months, again, before Sweatshop even, and it just never went anywhere with it. And then a couple years later, after I'd made Possum Walk and kind of got that bug again to direct, I did a photo shoot for what would become the first poster for PICKAXE Murders Part 3 at that time, and sent it off to a buddy, Mark Schoenbach, who, at the time he was just getting started doing retro style posters and stuff, and sent it to him. Oh, because we were very much ripping off. It's not an homage; it's a ripoff of the Slumber Party Massacre poster.
Great poster
with the girls, yeah, exactly. It's one of those, iconic images. And we were just kind of doing it as a goof. And Mark emailed me one day and asked if I had anything to work on. And I said, I've got this photo shoot that we did. I'm not really sure, what you can do with it, but here you go. And he took that image, the two girls on the floor with the killer's legs and then a pickaxe, very phallic looking, like the drill from Slumber Party
Right.
Massacre. And Mark saw that image and was like, okay, I'm going to do something with that. And he made it look like a retro poster. And I told him, like, yeah, it's for this project called the Pickaxe Murders Part 3, the final chapter. And that was it. And then he asked me if he could submit it to Fangoria because they contacted him and wanted to do an interview with him. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, that's cool. Like, absolutely. You can submit that image. And if they run it, that's just more press for all of us. And then a few months later, my brother called me and said, did you realize that there's an ad for the Pickaxe Murders in Fangoria? And sure enough, there was a full page ad. It was literally the poster artwork, but it was a full page in Fangoria, full color, the expensive ad.
Yeah.
And I'm like knocked to my to the floor. I'm like, what in the hell is going on? Because again, I thought it was just going to be the interview with Mark, and instead there's a full page ad for Pickaxe. And then we were off and running. In like a few months, I was casting. I still didn't even have a full script when I reached out to Tiffany Shepis.
Well, that was my next question. I was gonna say your second feature film effort. You got some pretty cool names.
Tiffany and
you had Tiffany Shepis. Yeah.
Yes.
A. Michael Baldwin.
A. Michael Baldwin from Phantasm.
Tiffany, I met at Frightmare. We had been friends on Facebook for a little while at that point, and I want to say that she reached out to me because she heard through the grapevine that I was at the time Odyssey Pictures with Stacy. We were going to be producing some movie, and it escapes me now what movie we were talking about, but she contacted me and said, hey, I hear we're going to be working together. And I didn't know what she was talking about because I think at that point I had split from Odyssey, and I told her, like, no, that's if you're talking about Odyssey Pictures, I'm not with them anymore. And then a couple months later, she was booked at Frightmare, and she and I just got to talking and became really friendly. And she was like, yeah, if you ever have anything, reach out to me and we'll talk. So she was the first person that I went after for Pickaxe. I wrote the role of Adrian specifically for her because, at the time, mostly what she was known for was kind of these, either the very sadistic, demonic type chick or the chick who gets naked and dies. And the character of Adrian needed to have kind of like that PTSD type situation where, because again, with it being the trilogy, the end of the trilogy, this was supposed to be the character as she's a little older and she's been through the ringer a couple of times. So she's a raging alcoholic and she's kind of a recluse. And I went to Tiffany and said, here's the pitch. Like, this is the character. She's got PTSD, basically. She's an alcoholic, etc. And, she read it pretty quickly and was like, dude, I'm in. And so again, a few months later, we were, casting up, and we tried a few different things for, quote unquote stunt casting, I guess, and I came across Michael Baldwin's agent. Actually, she contacted me because of some casting website and gave him my number. And when he and I got the phone call and I'm looking at this weird phone number, and I answered it. He's like, hey, it's Michael Baldwin. I'm like, fuck you. What are you talking about? And no, it was definitely him. And
that had to blow your mind.
Oh my God. How'd that make you feel?
It was surreal, to say the least, because growing up, I mean, I was never a huge Phantasm fan. I mean, I had seen it, of course, and was familiar, and so talking to him, I was like, man, this is crazy because this is basically horror royalty.
Yeah.
Because for better or for worse, I mean, Phantasm is iconic for our
Huge,
genre.
huge.
Massive. I mean, what they were able to do, especially Don Coscarelli was very independent minded.
Yeah.
And so for Michael Baldwin to be like, yeah, man, that sounds great. Like, send over the script. And I did. And he was like, I'm in. And then Same thing with Sal from the Howard Stern show. Like, I
Okay,
got picked up.
that was my next question. I'm a
Sal,
huge
man.
Howard Stern fan.
That's Lloyd. He
and
loves Howard
I
Stern.
love
Me too,
Richard
man.
and Sal, man. Those guys
Oh my god,
kill me.
Richard, and actually Richard and Sal both were originally both supposed to be part. We weren't able to make it work with Richard, unfortunately, for various reasons. And but I mean, Richard still, like, to this day, will email me just crazy shit, you know. And Sal, though, there's a filmmaker by the name of Michael Hoffman who made Girls Gone Dead. And at the time, he and I were getting pretty close on Facebook. And I reached out to him and was like, man, I need a couple of ideas on who could play this kind of scumbaggy character. And I told him the character, and he was like, man, you need to get Sal.
That's
like,
what I was
really?
going to say. Sal's your man.
Yeah. And again, I kind of saw him as this like slack-jawed yokel kind of, you know, greasy guy from the South. I never saw a New Yorker, you know, and he was like, no, man, trust me, you want Sal. And he hooked me up with Sal's phone number and email, and of course, with permission. It's not like he did anything behind his back. And I talked to Sal for a little bit, and again, he was like, I'm in. Like, sure, I'll be on set in, you know, a month or whatever it was at that point. And man, when Sal came on set, that was the huge thing for me, because like you, I'm a massive Howard Stern fan.
Yep.
So listening to Sal and Richard was one of my joys in life. And here I am working with this guy. And when he walked on set, like, I expected him to be kind of a dick, you know, because I mean, he works on the Howard Stern show, right?
Yeah.
And instead, he was the most humble, like, gracious guy. And I mean, we got along so great. And he was like, look, man, I want to thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Thank you.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm just this nudnik down here in Texas making this, you know, cheesy slasher film, and you work for Howard friggin' Stern.
Yeah.
You know? And so when he got done with his stuff and went back to New York, a few days later, Howard's talking to Sal about like the makeup that he's wearing and stuff in the studio. And before I know it, Howard says, weren't you just down in Texas or something making some movie? And so I was like, yeah, it's called The PICKAXE Murders Part 3, the final chapter,
and you're like,
directed by Jeremy Sumrall. When I heard my name on the Howard Stern show, I about shit my pants.
I'm like, oh my
The
god.
sad thing is, I did not hear it live. I was not listening that morning for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And somebody messaged me on Facebook and said, do you realize you just got mentioned on Howard Stern?
That's
You're like, shut up.
Shut the fuck up. And they had put it on YouTube, I guess, at that point. And so I went and listened to it. And I'm like, oh my God, I just got name dropped on Howard Stern.
You're like, I'm famous now, guys. I'm famous. Everybody,
Yeah, like, sorry,
don't talk to me.
Done. Like, I can't talk to any of you guys anymore.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, though, my dog, I've got to go pick up my dog shit afterwards. So I'm like, that keeps me humble. You know.
Do you think you'll try to get Richard for any future projects or anything?
I would love to. I mean, Richard, like I said, Richard was originally going to be in PICKAXE. Excuse me, or at least we were talking about it, because there was a scene that we never even shot for PICKAXE, and it's a scene that is just so over the top and vile that everybody I pitched it to absolutely refused. They were like, "There's no way, I will not film that." And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it's a, and I'm not going to say what it was, because certain people know what it was. I'm not going to say what it was, because I would like to reuse it in another film.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Richard about it, because he was like, look, I'd love to. He wanted to come down when he heard that it was a horror movie and that it was a movie called The PICKAXE Murders. And I'm sure he just wanted to be with Sal too, because they just love each other so much.
Well, he's a huge horror fan.
Oh,
Richard
he's a
is.
huge horror fan.
I love horror movies. They're my favorite.
They're my favorite. And he's a huge metalhead, and he's a drummer. So we
Scorched
also have that
Earth,
in
right?
common.
Scorched Earth.
He was in Charred Walls of the Damned,
That's it.
and he did Iced Earth for a little bit. And he
Well,
was in
I just
Death,
mixed both
which-
of those.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's all
You just
good.
made up your own band.
yeah.
You do.
Scorched Earth.
But,
There is a band
but
called
Rich-
Scorched Earth.
Wasn't
I
he
think,
in
though.
the
Probably,
Potato
yeah.
Fighters 3?
Yeah.
No.
But I pitched the scene to Richard, and he was like, "Oh my God, that's great! I'm in. Like, I don't care. I don't care what it's
He's
gonna
like, "I'm
cost.
down."
Let's do it."
That sounds like
It's
Richard.
gross. Let's do it.
Yeah, and it is just logistically it just wasn't going to work out, unfortunately.
Richard's like, a dog's going to shit in my mouth. Well, I'm down.
Yeah,
we're doing it.
Yeah, I was like, well, we're not going to use real shit. It's going to be like a melted Snickers bar. I was like, no,
I won't.
You're a real turd. I'm fine.
I want a real turd. None of this fake turd stuff. I want a real.
He wanted it for the authenticity. Yeah.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
I want to show the trailer, but before I do that, I've got a question from one of our viewers. Travis Brown says, a question for Jeremy. When did you get the inspiration for or where did you get the inspiration for the monster in Sweatshop? I think I know this story. I don't think it was your inspiration, though, was it?
Well, no. Well, originally, if we're talking about his portrayal or the actual character, the Ted Gagan wrote the original draft of Sweatshop.
Yeah, and Ted is the director of We Are Still Here.
We Are Still Here, and Mohawk.
Mohawk.
I've not seen it yet. I'm sorry, Ted. I need to. But the late Brody Lee, who just passed away, is in Mohawk, and everything I've heard about him was that he was a super gentle man, and it's a real blow to indie film and also professional wrestling fans as well. But yeah, Ted wrote the original version of Sweatshop, and I don't know if the Beast was quite like that in the original draft. But Stacy did revise the script a bit, and he and I were talking about like the character and all that, and he was like, look, the character is a blank canvas, like do what you want. And so for me, the characterization of the Beast was very much informed by Kane Hodder. I mean, it all comes down to Kane Hodder for me. The mannerisms that he has as Jason in particular, like the heavy breathing and the head turns and all of that. Just for me, a lot of Friday the 13th purists think that the best one is 4. Like they think Ted White was the best Jason. And I have nothing but respect for that portrayal of the character. And I'm also a big fan of CJ Graham for 6. But for me, it's all about Kane Hodder. Like that was the first time to me that the character of Jason was truly terrifying.
Yeah.
And
well,
a lot of it had to do with.
I am a part 4 guy. I love part 4. It's a great flick. Ted White is great as Jason, and I love his portrayal. But you're right. When Kane came around, he really personified.
He added so much to that character.
Yeah,
he made it a real
body
character.
language.
Yeah,
the anger.
You felt it from Kane.
Oh my God, yeah. And so for that, I kind of told Stacy, well, I kind of wanted to take that kind of angle on the Beast, and I realized really quickly, like it's hard to act menacing if you're covered up in head to toe in makeup or anything like that. And I mean, granted, I wasn't head to toe in makeup, but there was not an inch of my skin showing as the Beast. I mean, I had the coveralls on, the welding gloves, the giant boots, and of course the welding mask, and then the back of my head was a latex appliance.
And then you had all the animal pelts.
All the animal pelts and everything.
Jeremy's a fantastic beast. He is.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't go with my original idea, which the pelts were fake fur. No animals were slaughtered for those. There was, you can see kind of there's a dog skull attached. It's not a real dog skull.
Dang.
But the pelts were too clean when we first showed up. So we had to go out and like soak them in mud and, out in the parking lot of the venue where we were shooting. And we're just like dirtying them up and like spraying blood on them, all kinds of nastiness. But when I got the role, I really wanted to kind of stay separate from the rest of the cast so that I would have no problems killing any of them. And one of the ideas I had, and again, I'm glad I didn't do it, but I went to like a bait shop and bought a lot of like catfish blood and raccoon urine and all this kind of stuff that hunters and fishers use to mask their scent. And so I was going to spray it like all over those pelts and everything so that I could be legitimately repulsive to the rest of the cast. And I'm so glad I didn't do that because it was already bad enough, the smells coming off of that costume. Because actually, one thing that I did that I kind of screwed up on was every day when we were done filming, I would, strip down and take the coveralls and the pelts and everything and just throw them in a garbage bag. And then that garbage bag would go in the back of my vehicle. And the entire next week, it would just ride around in the hot Texas sun. And so then the next weekend when we would go to film, I would open up the garbage bag and it would just be like this blast of just funk. I mean, because it's literally my sweat, like, and mold and just who knows what else. So after that first weekend, I still threw it in the bag, but I would Febreze the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And so
a
I
little
actually, people said like, man, you smell like death and fruit. And I'm like, well, I mean, hey, that's, I
It's a
would rather me
compliment.
just smell like death, I mean, because it was literally like ball funk and Fromunda cheese that was all like fermenting in there.
It's a special scent. That should be a candle.
Yeah, exactly. And those were those heavy like Carhartt type coveralls where with the big thick down lining.
Yeah.
And I was married at the time, and thankfully when I put it on the first time, I was like, this thing is entirely too hot. Even though it was October, it was fall, it was still entirely too hot. And I knew if we got under those lights, like I would just be dead. So she ripped the down lining out of it, but I was still like melting. I probably lost 30 pounds just in sweat alone.
Oh, I
on
bet.
that film. It was rough. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it all came down to Jason for me, just kind of doing the breathing and the glove thing. When I was on set one day and the welding gloves were so thick that and the PVC pipe that we were using for the hammer is incredibly, large diameter. So I couldn't get a really good grip on it in those gloves. And so I would like after every take, like kind of have to pull the gloves a little further down to
Right.
kind of get a grip. And Stacy saw me doing that one day and he was like, that's really cool looking. Like do that in the scene. And I was like, okay. And so like anytime you see him kind of go, it was kind of a nice little character beat.
Sure.
Like he's not just this mindless monster, and yeah, I mean, but again, I don't consider myself an actor, but I definitely can see how difficult it is to portray menacing when you're under all that stuff, because you really have to exaggerate your movements. You have to, you can't get that because you don't have your face.
Yeah.
Like you can't emote. And plus with no dialogue, it's not like I couldn't growl at them. I couldn't yell at them or anything like that. I had to be menacing in a different way. So I very much Kane Hodder was like, I studied those movies in particular to kind of get that characterization down. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it.
I'm glad to hear you talk about it too, because I think a lot of people think that characters who don't have lines and just sit there on a scene or something easy, and it's like, no, it's still having to do things. People are like, oh, they're just standing there. It's easy. I'm like, no, it's not.
It really isn't.
It's funny too when I was reading the original script for Sweatshop. I thought, like, well, how am I going to convince myself to brutalize these characters? Because obviously I'm not legitimately brutalizing these people. And reading through the script, I was like, all of these characters are just jerks. Like I'm gonna have no problem whatsoever beating the ever loving shit out of these.
Yeah,
So that definitely helped. But then I met the actors portraying them, and they were all such sweethearts.
Yeah,
I was like, oh man, and now I've got to like really like be disgusting with these people.
Well, that's
Danielle
kind of
Jones.
Who's that?
Danielle Jones. Unfortunately, she's since passed. She was a good friend. I met her on my first or her one of the first days of filming Sweatshop, and it's the scene where she played Kim. She's the one that I strapped down to the table and like wrap barbed wire around her wrists, and then I crush her legs with the hammer, and then later I come back and finish the job and like smush her face into the ground.
He says it so nonchalantly, like I just wrapped her up and hit her. And,
oh yeah. Well, and that was I had not even met her prior to us filming that scene, and so when I came in and was like really having to rough her up, after every time Stacy would call cut, the first thing I do is like throw off the mask and be like, "Are you okay?" Like, because I just beat the living shit out of you. Are you okay? And she's like, "Dude, it's fine. Just make it look good." And that's one motto that I try to live by now as a filmmaker is just make it look good. And she told me at the time that if she didn't leave set sporting some new bruises, she doesn't feel like she did her work.
Wow.
And I really took that to heart. Again, I mean, I'm so devastated that she's not with us anymore. She was a very incredible person and a very close friend. And she was one of the few people when I was going through a really, really dark time. I didn't know it at the time. This was only a few months before she passed, but she was going through a really, really dark time as well. And I did not reach out to her. She reached out to me just to see if I was okay. And that meant so much to me. You know, sorry to be dragging everything down now, but
well, no,
she
because
reached out to me.
you do on those sets, you make relationships, and
and she I worked with her several times. I mean, she was kind of my go-to, you know, when I was making Possum Walk, she was one of the first people I reached out to, and I was like, look, I really don't have any money to offer you, but would you please come and because I know that you can act and I know that you are amazing on set. Can you please come and do this for me? And she did, and she was amazing. And then Pickaxe, she and I hadn't spoken in a while, and I think she had kind of gotten away from acting. And the actress that I had cast in that role at the last, we're talking the day before we were set to film her stuff, dropped out, and I had no idea who I was going to get. And so I just like randomly picked up the phone and called Danielle, said, look, I need somebody to be on set tomorrow morning. Here's the script. Can you please come and do it? And she did it, and she knocked it out of the park. Never gave anybody any kind of drama or anything. She showed up, she did her work. And like I said, just make it look good, dude. That was her entire philosophy. And we brutalized that poor woman through multiple films, but it's because she was reliable. And you know, again, she was just a lovely, lovely person. And I miss her dearly.
I'm really sorry to hear about that. Yep. I know that's tough, man.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we've lost a few from Pickaxe and a few from Sweatshop in the last couple of years. And it's one of those things where, you know, it's almost like high school where you say, oh yeah, we'll be friends forever and we'll try and keep in touch. And then of course people get their own lives and they kind of go their separate ways. And even though you know the love is there, you're not necessarily, you know, talking all the time. And you always intend to be there for each other and always intend to, you know, hang out and all of that together. And then before you know it, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you have any regrets, it's that you weren't a constant presence in their life. And I know that Danielle would have never made me feel guilty about that, but I will never forget that, you know, what she did for me when I was going through an incredibly dark time. I mean, it's just it's such a tragedy that she's not with us anymore. And I really wish that, you know, more filmmakers would have been able to work with her, because again, she was just a joy to have on set. And
yeah, sounds like it. Yeah, sounds like she was an incredible person.
Well, cherish your memories. That's what we can do. You know,
that's right. So,
let's watch the trailer though. We still have the trailer to watch.
I want to go to the trailer for Pickaxe, and kind of shift gears on that a little bit. The audience should be able to hear us. So if you want to talk about the trailer in the background, feel free to. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up now. Let's see where I'm at here. Oh, that's us live.
Hey, it's us. Yeah. Look at us.
There we are. So here's the trailer. We're going to go ahead and start it.
Tiffany.
Is there audio for this?
Yeah. You may not be able to hear it on your end, but the audience, the viewers can.
It's been so long since I've seen this trailer too.
Has it?
I mean, Tiffany, yeah, it really has. I mean, you know, I watched it, you know, a few times when Wild Eye released it, because this was their cut of the trailer, obviously before the release. But I had seen our original trailer, you know, a million and one times when we were John Hale, excuse me, my director of photography on Pickaxe and my editor. He and I, you know, banged out that trailer, and Oh yeah, that was one of those Jason shots right there.
Yeah.
Where hanging on the wall, and yeah, man, God, it's been so long since we filmed.
It's a great trailer.
It really is a great trailer.
It really is. It really is. And you know, I don't know. John might have edited it, but I think Wild Eye had somebody that did it. Yeah, and that was such a blast to make that film, because it wasn't supposed to happen. You know, it was just supposed to be a goofy little photo shoot and a kind of a jerk off idea that I had to write a sequel to a movie that never existed. And now it's out in the world, and you know, it's got its haters, which is fine. You know, I was telling Josh
that makes it better though.
That it does. I told him yesterday that the worst thing that I think would happen to a filmmaker is to have somebody just not care.
Yeah.
You know, I want them to either absolutely love it or absolutely hate it.
Mm-hmm.
If I get somewhere in the middle, you know, where they're just like, then I didn't do my job. Like if you hate it and you tell me you hate it and you tell me why, I almost love it more. Because number one, I think when we get bad reviews, like some of the eviscerations are just hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Because they're really clever, you know, and it's like I never would have thought about that. That's genius, you know. But what does bug me is when somebody, you know, Josh had mentioned this yesterday, if they've clearly never seen the film and they're talking about how bad it is or whatever, then I just I don't. But one of the things that does stick in my craw when somebody gives it a bad review is if they just don't get the joke. You know, if they don't get that style of movie, if they don't get what, you know, slasher movies are boobs and blood.
Yeah.
And in particular, there was and I don't remember if it was an actual critic or just somebody on Amazon talking about the lack of blood in the film. And which it's not a bloodless film. It's pretty bloody. But you know, Sweatshop definitely has much more over the top kills than PICKAXE does. But PICKAXE has its fair share. The one thing that I wanted to do though, when I was thinking about it being an 80s slasher film, I wanted it to feel originally like it was a movie that was done in the 80s that just kind of sat on the shelf and never went anywhere. And then it was unearthed 30 years later. And one of those things was in 1988 in particular. I set the film in 1988 for this reason. In 1988 and 89, the big franchises at the time were Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Hellraiser, all of those. And the MPAA had hard-ons for the slasher genre.
Yep, they sure did.
So they had to submit, I mean, it's a pretty infamous story. They had to submit Friday the 13th Part 7, something like, you know, 30, 40 times to the MPAA to get an R rating. And as a result, Friday 7 and Friday 8 and the Nightmare movies at the time were all hacked to pieces because the MPA didn't want them having so many frames of violence or whatever.
Right.
So I took that to heart when we were making the film and said, well, you know, number one, it's actually going to save us money because we don't have to spend as much on effects. But then it would feel like the MPAA had gotten a hold of it.
Right.
You know, so I wanted to kind of lean into that sensibility. And so when I see somebody that's like, you know, well, there's just not enough kills, there's not enough. And first of all, there's a high body count in PICKAXE. And again, it's because it was supposed to be a sequel to a movie that never existed. And it was supposed to feel like, you know, he's been at this for a while, you know? And so when I just see that somebody doesn't get the joke that we were going for, I mean, it's not supposed to be a parody or a send up or anything like that. It's actually a love letter to 80s slasher movies. That's why every character in it is named after either an actor that was in a slasher movie or a director or whatever. I mean, at one point, Sal, who was named Lou, who was Lou Perryman from Texas Chainsaw Killers, he drops the name Chuck Russell. He says that Adrian, who was named Adrian was supposed to be Adrian Palmer. She's Adrian King and Betsy Palmer. He mentions that she lives up in Chuck Russell's old place. Chuck Russell is the guy who directed Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Right.
Even though Chuck Russell's not in the film, I dropped that name in there because I wanted to have everything.
It's that homage,
about that film.
Nice homage.
To be an homage. I mean, Deputy Matthews is Tom Matthews from Friday 6.
Yeah.
I mean, even the kids, you know, like every one of them is named after. I mean, there's a Kevin that was supposed to be Kevin Bacon, you know, and there's a Tommy. It was supposed to be like, you know, Tom Atkins, and you know. but so the people that get that, like where I was coming from, they absolutely love Pickaxe, and those are the ones that I really care about.
Yeah,
the ones
and that's who your target audience
is. That's the target.
100%. I mean, absolutely the Texas Frightmare type people, like those are the ones that I care about. And I'm not here to say that I made the greatest slasher movie of all time. That's not at all what I think of the film. I mean, and I see the rough edges and all that. But I made a film that I wanted to see, that I would have fun going and seeing it with an audience. I mean, when we had a couple of screenings down in Houston at the Alamo Draft House, first of all, we had 2 sold out screenings. The first one sold out so quickly that they contacted me and said, we have to book a second screening just to have enough, because there's so much demand.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Which I was like, hell yes, but when I saw it with that crowd, I saw the jokes that hit right and everything, and seeing it with the Frightmare fans, the same thing. Christy Jett, who was moderating our panel, afterwards she came up to me and said, why don't you write comedy? I'm like, are you kidding? Did you not see that movie? That's a comedy.
It's a comedy.
It's horror, but it's horror and comedy are cousins. Like
that's true.
They share the same thing. There's the setup, and then there's the punchline. The delivery and all of that. It's all the same kind of timing.
I like this idea of doing these sequels. So I think the next one you should make is Pickaxe Part 9 in space. That's what we need.
The Phantom Stalker, the Phantom Menace. I need to catch some people up. We played your trailer, and apparently there was an issue with the sound. Like we were talking about earlier, there's always something. But I did want to get to a question that we have from Charles Anderson back up there. Do you know? Yeah, there it is. Charles Anderson, he says, Jeremy, I'm a UK watcher of this amazing Frightmare family. I am unfamiliar with your work. Do you have a favorite one of your films that I should start with? And then tell us a little bit about where people can see some of these movies, because I'm getting a lot of questions in the comments.
Yeah, at this point, I think the only Sweatshop is available worldwide. I know that for sure. At least it got released in Germany and Japan, and I think like the Czech Republic's Sweatshop got released there. Pickaxe, I'm not sure if it's been released elsewhere. In fact, I actually had somebody from the UK recently ask me if it was available, and I said, unfortunately, I don't know. I think I would say buy a region-free DVD player and buy the DVD directly from me. And
tell them where to do that real quick.
Yeah, I have a website. It's firstweekofwinterfilms.com. And I have a store there, and actually for today only, 10% off every piece of merch in the store with the promo code Frightmare 2021.
Okay, so to repeat that, it's firstweekofwinterfilms.com.
Yes, sir.
And the coupon code is Frightmare 2020.
Yes, sir. 2021.
2021.
No more 2020.
Yes.
There you go.
No more 2020 at all. But and then I think Psychic Experiment might have been released overseas as well. That was originally called Walking Distance.
Yes.
And I'm not sure what it may have gotten retitled overseas, but I have like a little cameo in that, and I co-produced it. And then Jacob, another movie that I produced. I know it got released domestically. I'm not sure about overseas, but I didn't have a lot to do with that on the post side, and I just produced it. I don't star in it or anything, but as far as the favorite project I've worked on, that's a real hard one for me, because I think depending on the day, I might say Sweatshop, because it was my first, because it was the thing that made me fall in love with the behind the scenes aspect of filmmaking and made me want to be a director. But then at the same time, Possum Walk was my first film as a director, and so I look back very fondly on the production of that as well, because that was the first time I was able to create something from nothing. And after I finished the script, we were casting, and I mean, just remember being caught up in all of that. And then same thing with Pickaxe, from getting the ad in Fangoria, which I thought was huge, and then casting Tiffany Shepis, who I've been a fan of forever, and getting name dropped on Howard Stern. I was like, oh my God, like all that whole process of making PICKAXE still to me feels very charmed, you know? And then since then, you know, I've still been working, and, you know, I've done like music videos, and right now I'm in pre-production on a couple of projects. And I'm having a lot of fun doing pre-production on, and it'll be the first time that I actually do my own like cinematography and stuff. I mean, I've done, you know, a little bit here and there. Like I did I don't like calling it a mock trailer anymore, because at this point it is the proof of concept trailer for a film called Cannibal Call Girls from Hell. Yes. Which is very much a Fred Olen Ray, Jim Wynorski, David Dakota.
I was gonna say, that sounds like a Jim Wynorski movie.
It 100%. Okay, so when I came up with the idea for it, I was watching Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers and The Witches of Breastwick and Nightmare Sisters.
I was gonna say Nightmare Sisters, dude.
Oh my God. Nightmare Sisters and Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers in particular are very huge for me. So I said, well, I want to make a movie like that, particularly because they did it in like 4 to 6 days each.
Yeah.
And they were made for very little money back then. And I knew that, you know, particularly when I was learning camera stuff and lighting and everything, I said, okay, I want something fun to shoot. You know, rather than just going and doing a short film, let's do a trailer. And at the time, Chuck Norfolk and Billy Pond and Courtney Sandifer had they had put out that they were doing the Frightmare fake trailer showcase. Yes. And I said, okay, I'm gonna do one, and I'm gonna do it in that style, and I'm just gonna try and come up with a title that sounds like that era. And I was unaware that there's a film by Donald Farmer, I believe, called Cannibal Hookers.
Yes, Cannibal Hookers.
So I thought about like my favorite movies of that era, like Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers in particular. Like that's a great title. And so I said, okay, well, let's not call it something hookers. Let's use call girls, because it's a little higher class, so to speak.
Classy girls, escorts.
But what's the opposite of high class? It's something that's very visceral and disgusting. So cannibals. So it's a group of call girls that are cannibals. So I said, okay, but it's got to be something more, not just cannibal call girls. So I said, okay, from hell, because like Chopper Chicks from Zombie Town and even though they were a band, the Cycle Sluts from Hell, like that stuff very much informed my childhood. So I'm like, oh my God, Cannibal Call Girls from Hell. And I thought, well, surely that's a movie.
Great
already.
Titles. Like Slimeball Bolorama. Great titles.
Yeah. I Googled it and I didn't find anything. So I was like, all right, let me do that. So I actually sat down and banged out a feature script in like 3 days. And then I went back and read it later and said, yeah, this feels like it was written in 3 days. So I scrapped it.
That's perfect.
And I scrapped it. And then when it came time to do the fake trailer, I just said, okay, my favorite movies are like Bachelor Party and things like that from the 80s. So I said, okay, let's take a bachelor party that goes wrong and have it be, you know, the kind of classic trope of like somebody playing with a Ouija board and they shouldn't be. You know, I mean, you guys got it as your backdrop, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Ouija boards are fun and cool, and they don't make enough like Ouija board films anymore. You know, like Kevin Tenney did Witchboard.
Witchboard,
like, that's the benchmark, right? So I said,
before you go on, I got to tell people that before you came on today, we wwere talking about clips, and Jeremy said, should we show the trailer? And at first I couldn't remember seeing it, and then I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. I'm going to show it to Charles over on this screen over here. So while we can get Charles's reaction, we decided that it probably wouldn't be the best to show this trailer because there's a lot of skin.
Ooh, yeah, there's a lot of skin.
Charles is watching it right now. Let's just get Charles's reaction because I think that'll be fun.
Woo! Get it, girl.
People can go and watch these trailers, right? Online.
Yeah,
Is that
I have a Vimeo channel. It's a Vimeo, vimeo.com/FWOW.
Dang, girl, put those away. Save some room for the Holy Ghost. Come on.
There's a lot of boobies in this.
Jesus is watching.
And it's funny because when we were doing the fake trailer, I asked Chuck and Billy and Courtney, I said, look, y'all know my sensibilities. Y'all know that I love cheesy movies.
I can't look at this. I'm a child.
I said, can I please have some skin in my trailer? And they're like, yeah, man, it's fine. Go ahead. I don't think they realized how much I was going to put in there.
What is that is that a penis?
That's a floating penis.
Yeah. Oh, you talking about the candle? The candle looks like a penis. Yes, I think you're the first one to actually notice that.
I noticed it.
I always notice penises.
Lloyd loves penises. Oh my god!
I love a good penis, right?
Yeah.
Well, look.
Well, there's more. Just so everybody knows, there's a lot more boobies than there are penis.
There's boobies and booties. We got them both.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Woo! Those are slow motion boobies.
Slow mo shot. Yeah, slow motion. That's like my favorite shot. Like when we were shooting the slow motion shot. And really, I would encourage everybody. Either hit me up on Facebook or go to my Vimeo page and I will send you the link to the trailer. I hesitate to post it publicly on Facebook just because they might pop me.
There's not enough slow motion boobies anymore. We're missing this in life.
Charles is still mesmerized by the boobies.
I'm gonna tell you, with the skin, in honor of some of the old Kevin Tenney movies. What was it, Sorority Sisters? Yeah. I think me and Lloyd are gonna redo. Me and Lloyd will redo the bathtub scene from that.
That's Nightmare Sisters.
Nightmare Sisters.
5 minute, yes.
Yeah, Nightmare Sisters. The 10 minutes of them in the bathtub for no reason. Lloyd and I will redo that shot for shot for you, and that'll be on the next trailer. I'll be like washing Lloyd. I'll be like,
just so you know, if you need naked fat men in your next movie, Charles and I will.
I always tell people
we're good.
We're good.
I always tell people that neither I nor my camera discriminate.
Just like Nightmare Sisters. Lloyd will wash my crotch. We'll be like, woo!
Oh, and the great thing about that is you have to put in that balloon squeaky sound.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
And that same song that's playing.
Oh God, yeah.
So what was it? Chimney?
That slow-mo shot. I had just learned how to shoot at a higher frame rate on that camera, and I was like, I want to put something really ridiculous in it. And thankfully, the lovely young lady, Sandy Ray, who is the slow motion boobs in that shot.
I know Sandy. Sandy's a Frightmare attendee.
Sandy, she's a hardcore Frightmare attendee. She's so amazing. I mean, she's
a nice
PICKAXE, and she's been in a tons of stuff that we worked in, and she was in my first film. My very first day meeting her, she was getting full body paint for Possum Walk, completely naked in the middle of the woods, and I was like, "Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm the director." She's like, "Hi, I'm Sandy. I'm naked." And, when we were doing that slow mo shot, I was like, "Look, I have this really ridiculous idea. Can we get you on a trampoline and just bounce in front of the camera while I shoot it at a very high frame rate, and then we'll splash blood on you and I'll slow it down?" And she was like, "Okay, yeah, sure, not a problem." And then when we watched it back, like we were all just dying, we were just howling through this thing. And I knew at that moment, I was, that's going to be the image for that trailer. Like I have to put the quotes on that shot because everybody's going to be reading while there's bouncing boobs that are getting bloodier and bloodier.
Yeah.
Vimeo.com/FWOW. That's first week of winter. FWOW.
And his website is firstweekofwinterfilms.com. Getting that question again.
That is a reference to John Carpenter's The Thing, which is my absolute.
I can tell behind you with the Mondo.
Yes,
the Randy Ortiz Mondo.
Right now, most of my office at this point, it's kind of in disarray as I redo things, but I have a massive collection of The Thing memorabilia, and I own over 70 versions of it on DVD, and my license plate is a reference to The Thing. That's how psychotic I am about that movie. And thankfully, I was contacted a couple years ago by Heather Buckley, also another Frightmare hardcore attendee. She was working with Michael Felsher of Red Shirt Pictures, doing the special features for Scream Factory's release of The Thing. And at the time, they hadn't even announced that it was happening. And she called me up one day and said, "Hey, I've got some news. Scream Factory's doing The Thing." And of course, I was just over the moon ecstatic because I'm just a big fan. She said, "The reason why I'm contacting you is because I know you've got some stuff that people don't have." And Todd Cameron, who runs outpost31.com, he and I had become friends a few years back, and he actually gave her the idea to contact me. And she said, wow, I know Jeremy. Like, how did I not know this about him? I own the absolute original location scouting photos.
Nice.
Oh wow.
From the original, like when
Out in Canada.
when they took the photos and printed them, like I've got the first print of, and not, I don't have all of them. Somebody else has half of them, and I've got basically the other half. But they're the actual location scouting photos. So when they're putting together the thing Blu-ray release, she contacted me and said, could you please scan those and send them to us, and we will give you full credit. So if you check out the Scream Factory release of the thing, in one of the behind the scenes featurettes, they show a bunch of the location scouting photos, and my name is in that end credit. It says images,
wow. That's
courtesy
awesome.
of Mike Plug, Jeremy Sumrall, and somebody else.
And it all comes back together because the panel at Frightmare is on that Blu-ray as well. So that's pretty cool.
And,
you've got some questions here, by the way, but go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I could run off about the thing for.
Oh God, yeah.
I could do that too.
Could we. One of our viewers, Todd Lewis, wants to know, how did you get involved with doing the video for the band Galactic Cowboys?
Thank you. I'm so happy to talk about that. So if anybody doesn't know, I mean, Galactic Cowboys is a band that's been around for a number of years. They never got really huge. And in fact, it's one of the tragedies of the music business, because they were signed by Geffen, and their album was supposed to come out the week before Nirvana's Nevermind. And Geffen put all of their attention on Nirvana, even though Galactic Cowboys was supposed to be like the next big thing. And Nirvana got all the attention, of course.
Oh wow!
And so Galactic Cowboys, they're based out of Houston. And a number of years ago, I worked for a band called King's X, which is another band that kind of never got their due, but they're very well respected amongst musicians in particular. And I kind of became friendly with the guys from Galactic Cowboys, and actually became closer to them through Facebook. In particular, their frontman Ben. He and I, like, politically, we're pretty far apart. Definitely, like, religion and philosophy, we're pretty far apart. But the one thing that we really bonded over, other than music, was horror films. Like, he's a massive Hellraiser fan. And so one day we were just talking about horror movies, and I don't think Galactic even had any ideas about reuniting at the time, because they had done a couple of shows here and there, but they had not talked about putting out new music in a long time. And he contacted me and said, hey, I know you're a director. Would you ever consider directing a music video for Galactic Cowboys? Which, of course, I've been a fan of theirs since I was like 15. I saw them open for King's X, literally in like 91, 92, something like that. And of course, I said, yeah, I mean, I would love to direct a video for you guys, but I mean, they weren't even putting out music at that time. So he said, well, what about doing a video for one of our older tracks? And I said, yeah, absolutely. He said, well, why don't you pick a song and let's discuss doing a music video for it? And the one that I picked was called About Mrs. Leslie. And it's not one that was ever, I mean, even though they were never huge, they didn't really have hits. That was never one of their kind of really well-known songs, but it was one of my favorites. And he said, wow, if we were to do that, like, I think I could get the guys together and do a music video for it. Well, that never happened, and that's fine. But a couple years after that, excuse me, he let me know. Actually, I believe it was their guitarist, Dane. He and I had become really close at that point. Dane reached out and said, hey, we're doing a new album. Nobody knows it right now, but we really want to hire you to do like our first big music video that, because they've done music videos in the MTV area that never really, went anywhere. I mean, they got played a bit, but so he was like, this is going to be our first like big music video that we've done in, 20 plus years or whatever. And we'd love for you to direct it. And plus it's called Zombies, and we know that you're a horror film director. So why don't you listen to the song and send us a pitch? And I was like, dude, I'd love to do it. So I put together a little pitch packet. And one of the funny thing was he said that, dude, this is like the most professional pitch packet we've ever gotten. And wow. I was like, wow, that's cool, man. Like I mean, to be perfectly honest, I went and downloaded how to pitch a music video.
Yeah.
and like kind of looked at different presentations and kind of, went with that.
Google's your
And so
friend.
yeah, exactly. And so I went back to them with the pitch and with the budget, and they were like, all right, let's do it. And then again, like a couple weeks later, we were on set shooting. Unfortunately, we actually had to shoot it twice. The first time we shot it was right before Hurricane Harvey hit. And my DP at the time, Josh Vargas, lived in kind of near Galveston, and he had to evacuate. And we thought, we were going to lose all this footage and everything. And so we went and wound up filming it again, and wound up, releasing it. And actually, it did really well for me and the band. And just one of those kind of happenstance sort of things. Like it's all who you know, and again, we became friends and had fun together.
Nice.
And yeah.
Todd says, for those wondering what Galactic Cowboys sounds like, think Metallica with Beatles-like vocal harmonies.
That's amazing.
And that's pretty accurate, because actually one of the big things when they were signed to Geffen was, I remember reading a review that said somebody finally figured out how to mesh Metallica with the Beatles. They are a very metal kind of band, but not necessarily thrash. But they're very heavy, but also very, very melodic, and they're really diverse too. Oh, excuse me. And I love those guys to death. And Monty and I bonded over, like, being diabetics and that sort of thing. And again, I'm like pinching myself going, what is my life? Like, I've done a lot of really weird, cool things. I was a roadie for Rob Halford for a while.
That's cool.
After he had left Judas Priest and had his solo band, I was a drum tech for them for a little bit. And again, I was just like, what is my life? It's just,
what is my life? What have I done?
Well, you've been you've got so many irons in the fire. You're one of those guys that's kind of a jack of all trades. And well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, but look, we appreciate you coming on the show. What I want to get to before we wrap up is what's next. What's on the horizon?
What is next?
Okay, so originally, before COVID happened, there were two projects that I was working on pretty intensely. I mean, there was the Cannibal Call Girls script. I actually had planned to film that right around the time that lockdown happened. But I was also working on another proof of concept for a film that I've been trying to get off the ground for a while, called Vixen with a Vendetta, which is very much a revenge action style film. But originally, I was going to do it as a fake trailer for Frightmare. At the time, we were having the tribute to George Romero, because he had just passed. Yes. So the caveat was that it had to have some type of undead in it. So I inserted zombies into this kind of revenge exploitation flick. And we started that proof of concept literally the week before lockdown happened. But before I do either of those, the maniacs at Gatorblade Films, who are the guys behind the Death Escort Service movies and Die Die Delta Pi, and a handful of other, like Cannibal Claws, and Naked Cannibal Campers. They contacted me because they had this idea for an action movie, but very much like a sleazy exploitation type action movie. They had this idea for a movie called Hellfire, and they knew that it was going to be a little bit higher budget than what they're used to. And so one day, Sean Donahue, the maniac behind Gatorblade Films, kind of put it out on Facebook that he was looking for somebody to make a movie that was like if Andy Sedaris and Julie Strain mated and had a baby, and Russ Meyer and Tura Satana mated and had a baby, and those two babies grew up and mated and had a baby, that baby would write this script. And
that's wild.
That it sounds genius. I want in. I don't care what I have to do. So he said, I really need a director that has a very small brain and very large balls. And I'm like, that's me. That is absolutely 1,000% me. So I signed a deal to option the script, and the original plan was to film come February, and unfortunately, with COVID still very much looming, and my own health and fitness being very important to me right now, in order to film an action movie, and we're not talking about, it's not John Wick, and I'm not going to have this huge crew supporting me. It's going to be 99% me doing the camera operating and everything, which means that I need to be in optimum shape to pull that off. Um, so we've pushed production back, but the plan is to still get it underway sooner rather than later. And it's an absolute complete over the top sleaze and cheese action film. It's got all the hallmarks of like an old Andy Sedaris film. It's got the busty babes and the guns and the ridiculous action sequences, and it's got really slimy characters and drug dealers and all this kind of these exploitation kind of hallmarks. And so yeah, I think if Cannibal Call Girls from Hell is not my next one, then Hellfire will be, and then Cannibal Call Girls will be done, probably shortly thereafter, because that one should be able to be filmed in just a few short days. It's one location and a bunch of ridiculousness. Hellfire, on the other hand, is going to take, significantly more locations, more money, which is also why we're pushing things back, because it's just, with COVID being a thing, there's still so many, locations that just are not comfortable with having 20 to 30 cast and crew members showing up and trying to make a movie. And I totally respect that and understand it. So I'm shooting little things here and there to kind of keep my skills kind of where I want them to be, and to learn new techniques and all. And actually right now I'm trying to get a couple of music videos going. A couple of bands have contacted me, and we put some some ideas together. And shooting a music video, if somebody has a house or something, we can go over there. It's fewer people. We're talking a couple of band members and then me. We're not talking about stunt coordinators and effects artists and hair and makeup and all of, and sound guys and all of that stuff. Like, I can do a music video on a very, very, very limited kind of location and limited crew type thing, Right. So next thing I'll be doing will be music videos, I'm sure. And then at some point this year, as long as COVID doesn't completely screw things again, we'll be back on production and doing Cannibal Call Girls and Hellfire, or Hellfire and then Cannibal Call Girls, and then, beyond that, I really want to get my dream project going, which is called Another Night at Beavers. And it's a script that I've had for a long time. It's an idea I've had for a long time. It's very much kind of in the vein of like Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, and the movie Feast. Like, it's a siege movie involving a lot of ridiculous creatures, and it's basically about these demonic creatures that terrorize a strip club on Christmas Eve. And that is my real like dream project. But I know that one is going to take a higher budget and a lot of people, because there's a lot of effects, there's a lot of creatures, and a lot of ridiculousness. So that'll come hopefully later.
Well, that's exciting.
It is exciting.
It's important to always have several irons in the fire.
Yeah, because then you can just pop up when when it's able. Just pop in and do a project and then move on to the next one.
Yeah, but, I mean, that's what we all want to do, is to roll right into the next, because they always say like you're only as good as your next film. So it always helps to have the idea for the next film while you're working on the one you're doing, and there are people that say like, well, why don't you focus on one project at a time? And I'm like, well, I've done that in the past. And then as a result, it's years before I get something else off the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, with PICKAXE, we shot it, 2013, 2014, and then it didn't get physically released until 2019. And in the interim, I tried to get things going, but it was hard, and I shot little things here and there, but it wasn't until, the last couple of years that I really realized the benefit of having multiple projects at one time. You know, I mean, there's a script that my buddy Garrett Hargrove and I are working on. And I don't want to say the title because I don't want someone to take it from us, but it's basically about a group of wrestlers. Because I'm a big wrestling fan, and Sean Hernandez, who is in PICKAXE, who works for Impact Wrestling, wanted to do a wrestling horror movie. And so Garrett and I started writing this script that we absolutely love, but it's about wrestlers and a giant fucking monster that kind of runs roughshod through this wrestling promotion. And so that one, you know, I mean, for all I know, tomorrow I may get a call saying I want to see that kind of movie.
Yeah.
You know, you just never know. You know, especially because, like, you know, you never know who's going to want to see what. You know, so you got to be able to pivot and take that left turn. You know, when you can. You know,
I'm a big fan of Garrett Hargrove's writing.
Oh, me too, man.
Dude, he's a great writer.
He's a fantastic writer, and he actually. It's funny. He and I became friends. I think, again, it was probably because of Frightmare. He and I reached out and at separate times wanted to work on various things together. He's very much a meticulous, plan-oriented kind of writer. And so he'll go off and do outline after outline and like fill in all of these beat sheets and all this stuff. And that's great. And then it helps him because when he does it, he'll turn around and send you 40 pages that he wrote overnight. I'm very much the opposite kind of writer. Like, I'll have a loose idea for a beginning and a loose idea for the end. And then I kind of start typing and find out what the characters are going to do. And they kind of have a mind of their own. So I wish that I could be more plan oriented, but anytime I've tried to do that, I wind up, you know, hitting my head against a brick wall. And Garrett, for whatever reason, he's just like bam, 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 bam. He's got this idea.
He's really good, and he's very witty. If anybody wants to see a fun movie, one that Garrett wrote and you have a small role in, is Axe Murdering with Hackley. So it looks like you can watch it on Tubi.
Like Tubi has it,
but I don't know where else.
I think it may be on Amazon Prime. I'm not 100% sure. Axe Murdering with Hackley. Originally, it was called Fun with Hackley, Axe Murderer, and you know, when it got distribution, they changed it to make it alphabetically closer to the front of everything, which makes sense.
Sure.
When he called me to come and play the character Hard Knocks, I think is what they gave me the credit on IMDb.
I can't remember. Which
you wouldn't even know it's me because I'm wearing like an old man mask. Because if anybody hasn't seen the movie, it's basically Friday the 13th meets Office Space. It's very much a bunch of people at this corporate gig, but the corporate gig is that they're serial killers.
Yeah.
And they kind of punch in and then they go and they kill people and then they punch out, you know. And so my character, my like one little scene, I'm just like hovering around a couple other serial killers as we're watching like viral videos or something, some ridiculousness. But Garrett asked me, you know, like, hey, would you mind coming and doing this? And I was already in Austin at the time. I think I was there for, I forget what the name of the festival at the time. It's now Austin Revolution Film Festival. And I was also supposed to go to Alamo City Comic-Con, I think, because Hernandez had a booth there and I was going to go see him and hang out with him that weekend. So I was already there. And, you know, anytime Garrett wants anything, I'm like, dude, I don't care what it is, I'm in. And so I showed up on set and just had a blast just watching everybody work. You know, it's fun for me to do things like that occasionally where, you know, I can be on where I'm not the one in charge.
Right.
You know, like, or I'm not a producer even on it. Like, I don't have to do the heavy lifting. I can just kind of sit back and watch other artists work, you know. And that was the first time that I'd actually witnessed Larry R. McKee, the cinematographer, you know, like it's the first time I got to see him in action. And he and I had known each other for a number of years. You know, he and his business partner, Molly and I have known each other for a long time. We worked on projects before, but I had never worked with Larry. So that was cool for me. And same thing with Trey, the director. Well, he and I had actually worked together on a short film that I co-wrote and produced called Princess. And Trey was our cinematographer for it. So, it's just kind of cool that we all wind up working on each other's projects and kind of anytime those guys want me to, do anything, I don't need any kind of anything. Just, tell me where to be and I'll be there.
And you'll do it.
As long as I can make it happen. I mean, that's just what all of us should be aspiring to do as filmmakers is just help one another, because it's already difficult enough as it is to get a movie made.
Yeah.
And speaking of filmmakers and such, like Abel Berry, like that dude, he and I met at one of our first Frightmares. Like I was promoting Possum Walk. I think he was promoting Spoils the Clown. I think.
Oh,
the name of the movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he and I got interviewed, and that was the first time we had ever met. Was literally on camera as we were being interviewed, and we've been friends ever since. And like we've gotten completely shit faced at Frightmare together, and we've had a bunch of crazy instances, but we've never actually gotten to work together on a project. And now, like I mean, there have been times where he's come to me and said, hey, I need an actor for this scene, and I'm like, okay, here's a list, like contact them. And I've gone to him and said, hey, I need a car for this scene. And but we've still never worked together on a project. We've just kind of helped each other here and there. But I see him now, and I see the success that he's having, particularly when it comes to raising money for indie films.
Yeah.
And I'm just like in awe and just like completely inspired by what he's able to do. And he actually contacted me a couple of years ago about Another Night at Beavers. He was like, do you want to make this movie? And I'm like, absolutely. And he was like, okay, let's put something together. And at the time, various reasons, I wasn't really ready to make that movie. And so, I've contacted him recently and said, hey, I'm still thinking about that. He's like, dude, anytime you want, just jump at me and let's do something together. So it's coming. It's coming.
Well, sure. That's why we've got you on, because there's a lot of stuff happening in Texas as far as independent filmmaking.
We love Texas film here.
Yeah, and we kind of want to make everybody aware of it. Jeremy, to all the viewers, Jeremy is somebody to watch out for. Keep your eye on. Make sure you follow him. Go to his Facebook page.
Lurking in the corner.
Yeah, go to his Facebook page, and what Facebook page is best for people to follow you at?
Well, there's a couple. I actually just rebranded my director Facebook, because I have my production company Facebook, again, First Week of Winter Films. So they can always follow me there. But I also post the same stuff on my director page, which it used to be Jeremy Sumrall, writer, director, actor, lover. And after a while, I kind of thought, well, that's not really how I want to be known. And I think that the exploitation genre in particular obviously gets a bad rap. Mm-hmm. And I very much wear that as a badge of honor. So I rebranded my page just recently as Jeremy Sumrall Techsploitation Flickmaker.
Flicker picture.
I like anything with that ends with exploitation. Lloyd knows that. I know all the exploitations.
It's funny. I was talking with Josh again yesterday about the idea of being a filmmaker, and how I don't like necessarily calling myself a filmmaker, because to me it sounds a little pretentious. And the movies that I make are in no way, shape, or form pretentious. So I make flicks instead of films.
Flickers.
So I'm a flick maker. And actually I sell, actually I think I just give them away as freebies when I sell t-shirts. I've got stickers that say Flick Maker.
He's a flicker picture maker.
I purposely chose that font because the L and the I look like a U.
Flick. Oh yeah, well, yeah.
So it looks like fuck maker.
Well, you're a fuck maker too. You're a lover.
And I am a fuck maker. So yeah, you can find me at Facebook, Techsploitation. That's exploitation with a T, because I am a Texan, damn it.
Yeah, Techsploitation.
Techsploitation, Flick Maker, and then again, First Week of Winter Films.
Nice.
On Facebook and everywhere else. I mean, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, all that kind of good stuff.
Well, I urge everybody to follow Jeremy and kind of get in that circle that we've been talking about with Jeremy
it's out here.
And
Texas
Garrett
is out
Hargrove and Abel Berry.
We're always looking for more people. And the thing is that this is very much a community and a family, and we need to be supportive of one another and help each other out. And there are so many of us, like Troy Escamilla, who did Teacher Shortage, and
Yes.
Stirring, which was then rebranded as Mrs. Claus,
Mm-hmm.
and Party Night as well.
Yep.
And then there's JP DeStefano, who did a Halloween fan film called Halloween Night, and then Victor Gelsomino, who is right now working on an action film called The Ghost City of Insurrection, but he's also going to be in Hellfire, and he's my co-producer on that, and he's also going to be my star. And so there's a lot of us out here, not just in Houston, but in Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, and everywhere. And it is very much a community, and we should be more supportive and not toxic to one another.
Yep.
I
totally
think
agree.
When there is a collection of people in one area, there can be that tendency for people to kind of be a little toxic, and thankfully they kind of get weeded out over the time. And then there's the people that stick through it, like Joe Grassafi, who did Lars the Emo Kid and Conjoined, which, if you guys have not seen Conjoined, that movie is the height of ridiculousness. It's about conjoined twins, and one of them is a serial killer.
Yeah. It's such a great plot.
It really is.
It's so great. And of course, Chuck Norfolk, who runs the
I was going to mention Chuck.
Chuck is a really good friend of mine. He and I met when we were producing Jacob, and we did Princess together. We co-wrote it. Chuck directed it. I produced it. And he did Haunted Trailer.
Yes.
Life Insurance Lottery.
Life Insurance.
I'm actually a picture of me's in that Life Insurance Lottery.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Life Insurance Lottery is quite frankly one of the best indie films to come out of this area, I think, in a long time. And it's not horror. It's kind of a thriller, but it's just a nice kind of drama. And it's definitely his most mature work. And it's my favorite movie that he's done. And I've, obviously love and support Chuck 1,000%. Anything that he wants to do, I'm willing to help out on any of that stuff. Because again, Chuck and I have known each other now for,
that's cool.
God, I know, going on 10 years since we worked on Jacob together. You know, and Chuck and Joe and Marcus Vasquez, who is working on this great Batman fan film called The Bat, which is like a really dark, almost horror take on the character. I mean, it's almost that the criminals in it are the innocent victims in a way, and Batman is like stalking them and trying to brutalize them. And I helped out on quite a few days on set on that, and again met a bunch more filmmakers. And that's the thing, like, none of us have any money, none of us are studio backed or anything, so we help one another out as much as we can, and just we do it because we love film. I mean, we're storytellers by trade, and that is absolutely ingrained in us. And if we didn't have this, like, we'd be absolutely going stir crazy, particularly during a pandemic like this. I mean, we'd be lost, and so again, thank you guys for doing this, video podcast, whatever you want to call it, because like we'd all be going crazy without it. Because I know that there's so many Frightmare fans out there that are so bummed that
people are dying for the next show.
That's why we started this podcast, though. This live cast.
That was the reason. Stay
connected with people, but also make us not go crazy too. Because me and Lloyd probably would have killed each other at some point, or killed people
crazier than we already are anyway.
But anything we can do down the road to help promote, or anything, just let us know. We're here to support.
Let us know. Keep us informed.
So much, man.
Yeah, I mean, we just want to spread the word. Anytime there's something going on, let us know so we can let everybody know what's going on in your world, and just try to support each other. Like you said, we've all got to support each other.
We're all in this together, and none of us are getting out of it alive. And unfortunately, 2020 taught us that life is very short.
Yep.
And we need to lean on the people that we love. And there's no greater community than horror for me. I mean, you don't see this kind of love and support for romantic comedies. You just don't.
There should be.
And
there should be
even
love.
There should be, right? Because I mean, dude, one of my, like my favorite movies are like Love Actually. Like that is a great romantic comedy, particularly it's a Christmas movie. I'm a big softie at heart. But but yeah, and even if not all of my films are going to be horror, but they're all genre. They're all kind of exploitation type, movies. There's going to be tons of boobs and there's going to be tons of blood because those are the things that I grew up loving. Like I'd go to the video rental store and rent a bunch of cheesy slashers and stuff with Linnea Quigley and Brinke Stevens and Michelle Bauer and all of them, and that's what I want to make.
Well, you can bring back Metasploitation and Nazi exploitation because those have disappeared.
That's what we need. Yeah,
bring them back.
Yeah, I mean, especially now with the whole the Proud Boy movement, the neo-Nazi stuff. It's like we need some good Nazi exploitation.
Yeah, like it's a good time to bring it back.
Yeah, man. I mean, why not?
You can remake Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS. You can do a remake of that.
Yeah, I really wish Rob Zombie had made Werewolf Women of the SS into a remake.
I feel like he should have because Sherry Moon would have been perfect for taking on that Ilsa type of role.
Come on,
absolutely
that's so genius, but it's whatever.
Well, I just want to say it's been a pleasure to have you on.
This Jeremy. Is great, man. Have we been on that long? It flew by.
We've been on a while.
We've been on a while. It's been great just catching up because I haven't seen you. I see your posts.
We never get to talk at Frightmare. We never get to talk at Frightmare because you're always so busy.
Yeah, I'm usually like, hey Jeremy, what's up? And then I'm off again.
All right, see you later.
Yeah,
yeah. But we never get to, But yeah, this has been great, guys. And again, thank you so much for supporting everything that I and all of my friends and fellow filmmakers have done over the years. Because if it weren't for Frightmare, we'd all be going crazy. And yeah.
Well, like I said, it's always been reciprocal because, I feel like you guys have brought something to the convention and, your films, people talk about them, for years after they see them at Frightmare. I get people coming up to me.
I have to tell this one quick little anecdote before we wrap.
Sure.
I guess it was last Frightmare at this point when we did screen Cannibal Call Girls from Hell. I was out in the lobby of the hotel having a quick lunch with my brother. And, this young girl, I'd say she was probably, 12, 13 years old. Her and her mother were across the table from us. And they were talking about the things that they had seen at the convention. And the mom was like, what's the favorite thing you've seen? And she was like, well, I just got to see that fake trailer showcase that just happened. And she was talking about all these, other trailers that showed. And she said, but my favorite one was the one that they showed last. It was this really ridiculous movie called Cannibal Call Girls from Hell. And she just started singing its praises. And I'm just sitting across there, just trying not to laugh. And my brother, of course, is looking at me going, oh, his fucking ego is going to just get huge.
He's like, oh, great. Here we go.
And so I had to be that guy and say, oh, I hear you talking about that fake trailer showcase. Yeah, Cannibal Call Girls from Hell. Yeah. I did that. And she looked at me like, are you serious? I'm like, here's my business card. Just hit me up. I totally did the whole drop the business card and then walk away kind of thing. But that's what I do it for. Obviously I get a charge out of making these kinds of movies because that's the stuff that I want to see.
Yeah.
But if I get that pure kind of reaction from somebody that doesn't know me and they don't know that I'm the guy that made it. They don't know me in any way, shape or form. And I happen to hear them talking. And she could have shredded it and I would have been fine too. Cause I thought I would have been that's hilarious what you just said about my film. Cool. Awesome. But no, she sang its praises and
wow.
That really made me really feel good.
You should be the guy when they praise your movie. You should be like, I know the guy who made that. He's an asshole. You should never.
I do that. Never. I do that all the time with Sweatshop. When people are like, yeah, man, Sweatshop is blah, blah, blah. They talk about how good it is. And I'm like, I know the guy that played the killer and he's a fucking dick.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow,
piece
really?
of shit.
Got stories.
I think he's actually killed people in real life. He actually kills people.
So. You know what? He cut off my toe once.
Crazy. Totally. He's a fucking asshole. He fucking kills animals. He brutalizes them. He sets them on fire. I
saw him eat a dog once. It was weird. He looked at me while he did it. He was like, I was like, whoa.
Those pelts were legit. Those were animals that he had killed.
And he loves Nazi exploitation movies too. You know what? This is stupid
asshole. He's a sicko.
He's a sicko.
He's so fucking sick.
He dresses up like Ilsa.
I've been called a misogynist for the films that I make so many times. I'm just like, man, you don't get it.
Yeah.
No, like I don't do these because I want to physically do them. I do them because it's going to get a reaction.
That's a hard way to explain exploitation movies to people. It's like it's not. It's for your reaction. That's why they're made.
Yeah,
it's not like it's not like I'm doing this because I need to see more boobs.
Yeah. Right. It's like I don't think that the guy that made a Serbian film literally wanted to see somebody fuck a baby.
Yeah.
Like he made it to make an audience get a reaction.
Yeah.
You know, I think probably the only filmmaker who did it because they got their jollies was like Tom Six when he made Human Centipede.
Oh, Tom.
I just want to see a bunch of people go ass to mouth. Right?
Yeah. I'll tell you some stories about Tom when we're at Frightmare.
Sure.
I know a bunch. I had to drive him around for a few days and he told me some weird shit. So we can talk about that later
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's a unique guy.
Yeah. To know, man. Oh my God. Yeah.
Well, we're going to announce before we let you go, I think since we've been talking about Texas filmmakers, we should let people know what we're doing tonight. We're having a Prime watch party on Twitch. And Richard Nettleton, one of our longtime viewers, is co-hosting with us. So he got to pick the movie. Mm-hmm. And you tell him what he picked, Charles.
You tell him, because you know what's up.
He picked Circus of the Dead. And we're gonna watch. Movie. Yeah, we're gonna watch that on Prime tonight. I don't even think I've told Billy that yet.
Billy should pop in too. I'm Billy. I made this movie.
Yeah. So, anybody that wants to join us,
he's a dick.
He's a dick.
Billy Pine.
I love Billy. So
Billy Pine he's a great guy. He does have an obsession with penises though.
He loves penises.
So
do you, Lloyd. You love penises.
Oh yeah, of course I do. It's something that we share.
He's got a collection. Like if you can't see it, but in front of us is a whole bunch of pictures of penises, varieties of shapes and colors and sizes,
everywhere.
Well, so there's like a fake penis that was made for the movie Sway by Christy Boole, that Josh Vargas directed, and that penis has wound up in multiples of our films.
That's awesome.
Like there was originally a kill in Pickaxe that we cut where Jason Champion. Or Alex Black, the killer, actually rips a dude's dick off and then shoves it in his throat. And we wound up cutting it for various reasons. But that was the same. I believe it was the same dick, or at least from the same mold of the dick that was in Sway. That was also in so many other films of ours. Because
you need a scene like Street Trash when they play Keep Away with the Penis. You remember Street Trash?
Oh yeah,
they play Penis Keep Away. They're like, oh.
Well, I mean, look at Sweatshop. There's the ball gag scene. Like, we're all obsessed with cock and balls. I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to Lloyd and Charles's Penis Show.
Talk. This is Penis Talk 101, where we discuss
Lloyd
penises.
And Charles. So hang out. We'll get to the bell end after the next break.
If you'd like to discuss your penis or a penis you know, please call in at 1-800-BIG-COCK. That's 1-800-BIG-COCK.
Big cock. Well, listen, Jeremy, it's been a joy having you on. This has
been great.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Let's do it again.
Yeah,
how about that?
Yeah, man. Thanks for the invitation. I mean, anytime. I don't have to have anything to promote. I'll come on and bullshit with you guys, and we'll talk about boobs and penises, and all that kind of good stuff.
Right. formed a new exploitation, penis exploitation. So we're gonna start penis exploitation. All right.
There we go. I'm down.
Penisploitation.com, where all of your penis love is brought into one penis film.
We have lots of penis coming out of our mouth today.
Lots of penis coming both in and out of our mouth.
Penis coming out of your mouth.
Both in and out of our mouth. You will see lots of penis fall to the ground, where we will pick up the penis and put it back in our mouths. Thank you for joining Penisploitation.com.
Oh my God.
Todd Lewis said we are erecting sets now for the penis show.
We are erecting quite large sets here. Massive sets are being erected here. We are masters of erection here at Penisploitation.com.
Jeremy asked me before the show if it was all right if he cursed. And I said,
oh, shit.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, look. Speaking of penises, Lloyd's penis. Lloyd's not wearing any pants at Penisploitation.com.
It was a family-friendly kind of, TVG kind of audience.
Oh, God, no.
If I need to censor myself, I need to prepare just so that I don't be an
asshole
that's like, oh, shit, I said fuck.
Yeah.
let's censor this. Tallywhacker.com. Welcome to Tallywhacker.com, where we deal with all your various types of tallywhackers. All right.
Did you see the comment from Crazy Leg? He says, just as long as we don't all get in line to measure them like in the last American version.
Oh, we do that too. We did that before the show. God. That's how we decided who's going to talk first. Me, Jeremy, and Lloyd all got on camera. And we were like,
TMI, right, he shouldn't have. You weren't supposed to say that on air, man.
Oh, I tell everybody. You know what? But hey, Jeremy won, guys. That thing was scary. All right?
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, there's the reason why I swing that big fucking sledgehammer in sweatshop, you know? It's very much a penis metaphor, right?
Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, it scared me, and I've seen a lot of shit in my day, and that thing was like, I don't know, it was like looking at a man choke another leg. It was weird. It was scary.
Whew. All right. That's enough penis talk.
All right, guys.
You guys.
And this will end our penis exploitation talk. But, hey, stay tuned for our wonderful After Hours OnlyFans,
where we'll talk about testicles.
Testicles on OnlyFans. That is Frightmare HQ Penis Exploitation OnlyFans.com.
We've totally taken a left hand.
We have.
Oh,
all right, guys.
All right, guys. Well, listen, Jeremy, thank you so much.
This has been a ride. We got to go now.
Man.
It's been great.
Seriously.
If do you have anything else you want to say before we say goodbye to you?
Just look me up on Facebook again. Jeremy Sumrall, Texploitation, Flickmaker, and First Week of Winter Films, my production company. And again, right now, 10% off with the promo code Frightmare 2021 on firstweekofwinterfilms.com on the store. Buy Cannibal Call Girls from Hell merchandise. Buy my production company logo. Buy PICKAXE. You can buy a copy of the DVD.
Nice.
I will autograph it. And I've got plenty. And again, 10% off with that promo code Frightmare 2021. So
will you draw penises on it if they ask?
Get it, guys.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
100%.
There you go. All right, Jeremy. You have a good one. We're going to let you get back to it.
Charles.
You have a good one, sir.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. It's time for more penises now that he's gone.
Oh, my God.
Oh, he's still here.
He's still here.
We're still on air?
Yeah, well, you're still here. I'm going to put you in the background. And we're going to end the show.
Put him in the background. He's going to strip down naked. He's going to come back, guys, and we're going to start the OnlyFans version of this interview. All right?
There you go. Let's see if I can get a. Let's see if I can get a.
Oh man, we're having all kinds of.
Whoa!
Hey,
going here.
We're gone. Hey, it's me.
Hey, now we're not centered. Now I gotta scoot over a little bit more.
Lloyd, get out of there!
Come over, Charles. Come over this way. Which way do we go? Woo!
Woo!
Well, listen, we did get a couple of tips, and I want to thank everybody for the tips. Richard Nettleton, thank you, sir.
We love the tips here at Penisploitation.com.
That's right. And Ingrid also super chatted us.
You got to come over more.
$2 as well.
There you are.
Yay! So anyway, tonight, guys, join us at 7 p.m.
7.
That's right. And we're going to do, what are we going to do?
We're going to watch Circus of the Dead.
Circus of the Dead with Richard Nettleton.
Needleton.
I think what we're going to do is go ahead and sign out for now.
Yeah,
Charles, you got anything else you want to talk about?
No, that's it for right now.
Okay.
We've kept people with us for a long time today.
Yeah, it's been a long show. So, guys, peace out. We'll see you tonight in just a few hours. Circus of the Dead, Prime Twitch watch party on our Twitch panel with co-host Richard Nettleton.
Yeah.
We will see you guys later. Peace out and have a good one.
All right, guys.